Hi there YouTube friends, Kalos Arisate, and welcome to Mom's Greek Kitchen, the channel where I teach you my mom's Greek recipes in her memory. Today we're doing another classic, Souvlakia. Souvlakia. Souvlakia is plural, Souvlaki is singular. Just so you know, a souvla is a spit, something that you would skewer an animal with and put it over the rotisserie. So a big one is called a souvla, and a small one is called a souvlaki. So that's what we're doing. We're doing souvlaki, which is cubes of meat. Normally they are lamb or beef or pork, which is what we prefer. Chicken, you can do like shrimp and other seafood. You can do them strictly vegetarian, although that's not common. Souvlaki differs from shish kebab in that it doesn't have any vegetables on it. So it's your seasoned meat, skewered on usually bamboo skewers or metal ones or whatever you have. And then they are grilled over charcoal usually and served with other things. That's your meat course. This video has been out for a while, but I just found out a little while ago that for some reason there was no sound and I lost the intro part, this part. So I am redoing it. But the rest of it will be the old video with sound, hopefully. So the rest of the video will be following this. You can use any kind of meat you like. Traditionally, lamb would be used, seafood is used, beef of course, and chicken. If you're using chicken, I would recommend the dark meat because the white dries out really quickly. Beef, again, you want a nice tender piece of beef because this doesn't go on the grill very long. They're very small, of course. Prawns are great, but again, you want to cook them quickly. In my family, it's always been pork, and pork shoulder to be exact. It's got a good mix of fat and connective tissue and meat, and it stays tender even if it's slightly overcooked. It tastes great. The pork fat really has an affinity for the grill. One of the best meats out there for that. So we are going to start with this pork shoulder butt. Any of the pork roasts work well. You don't want the lean ones because they'll be good. They just aren't as good as one like this, which has the fat and stuff in it. So I'm just going to take the strings off. And basically, we're just going to cut it into sections. Let's do it down there. It just makes it easier to cut if they're sort of... And you want to cut them about an inch thick. You want like inch cubes or at least an inch by 2, depending on how you cut it. You don't want them really tiny because they won't... Oop. All right. So again, we're going to cut them about an inch thick. We'll just get our slabs to the side here. I'll do the other later off camera. So we've got our inch thick slice here. And again, we're going to... I look at it and look and see where the fat is. And I want to try and distribute the fat on the pieces, so I'm actually going to cut this way. If you see a lot of connective tissue, the stuff that's harder to eat, we get rid of that. But a piece like this is okay. I usually prefer pieces closer to this. So about an inch by an inch and a half maybe. Something like this I would cut into 3 that. So this one, as you can see, has more fat on it, but if you intersperse this with 2 leaner cuts, it's great. It keeps everything nice and moist and tasty. So I'm just going to continue and cut all of this meat into my cubes, and then we'll be back for the next step. Alright, so I've got my pork cut into my cubes. I just wanted to give you a few tips that I didn't go over. If there's a fat cap, it won't actually cook in time when it's on the barbecue, so I trim some of that off, as well as, like I said, the really stringy connective tissue. You don't really want a lot of that. The fat that's in between pieces, that's different, that will cook down, but basically on that big roast, all I'm throwing away is that. So it's not really a lot. I'd say maybe 2 ounces, 3 ounces, if anything. Alright, so we don't need that part. You can cook that up and give it to your pets or whatever, or throw it out. So here is the pork that I've got. So that's going to be enough for maybe 5-6 souvlaki for the size that I'm going to make. So now we're going to season it up. And we're going to start with good old seasoning salt. And Mom did use seasoning salt after she learned about it. But you can use plain salt if you'd like. And you want to go a little heavy. Alright, and then of course some black pepper. Normally I would use fresh ground, but I broke my spice mill. Okay, and granulated garlic. You can use fresh, but it's not actually as good. This has a stronger flavor and it gets everywhere. Oregano. And when you use oregano, you want to give it a good rub between your hands. Releases any oils and things of that sort. Makes it a brighter flavor. A little bit more, I think. So in this amount, that almost was 2 good tablespoons at least. What else? So those 4 are the standard flavorings for anything that we put on the barbecue. And I mean anything. So vegetables, seafood, chicken, beef, pork, lamb, actually they probably wouldn't do it on salmon, but other seafood works really good. So I also am going to add a little bit of lemon juice. And again, it's the bottled stuff, because once it's cooked, nobody will know the difference. And just a little bit of olive oil, just to moisten everything up a little bit. Maybe a tablespoon. And then we're going to mix. And you want to make sure that the seasonings are everywhere. And by look, I can tell that I need a bit more spice. So I'm going to rinse my hands off so I don't get my spice bottles all yucky. I need more seasoning salt. And a little bit more garlic and oregano. So let's call that 3 tablespoons of oregano. Alright. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So there is our seasoned pork. Alright, we're ready to start our souvlaki now. So we've got our seasoned bits here. I would suggest you, if you haven't made souvlaki before, that you take a piece and you pan fry it to see how the seasoning is. You may want to add more, etc. But I've got experience with this, so from just looking at this, I know this is going to be fine. So then we're going to use our bamboo skewers, which have been soaked in water, at least half an hour. It helps prevent them from burning on the barbecue, but not really. But it's better than nothing. So we're just going to basically put our skewer through the meat. If your meat is dangly like this, it means you haven't actually got it correct yet. So you want to sort of thread your skewer back and forth through the meat so it's nice and solid on the skewer. And then we push it down to the bottom. You want to try and alternate ones that have fat with ones that are a bit more lean, so it's not all fat or all lean. And you just keep going until you filled up your skewer. Now, a piece like this, which is dangly and long, you're going to thread your skewer back and forth through it, and as you see, it's nice and tight. It won't fall off. It won't dangle into your barbecue and burn. Some of them have a little bit more of a tendon, so you may have to push a little harder. Also, it's a good idea to squish the meat towards the skewer so you know that you've got the right thickness all the way around, so they're all about the same, because then they'll cook more evenly. So as you can see, that's pretty even. One thing to be careful about, sometimes the skewers themselves will split, which can jab you on the side, so just be careful there. And you just basically keep going until you've got your skewer to about, I would say about that. So I've got about 1 inch and a bit on either end. And we're going to keep going until all our skewers are full. And I will be back then. Alright, for our souvlaki or anything we do on the barbecue, we usually do a basting sauce or basting oil. I'm not sure how you want to describe it. But basically you would add this to the cooked side of your barbecue. So if you put your meat on, you cook one side, you flip it over, then you would brush it with this basting sauce. And normally we would flip it one more time after that, so both sides are done and they both touch the heat one more time just quickly. But basically it's all the Greek spices. We're going to start with some olive oil. I'm not going to do a big batch here, but this will last in your fridge for pretty much indefinitely. So Mom would always have a jar of it in the fridge, and when we were barbecuing she would take it out, she would beat it up so everything was mixed up together, and Dad did the barbecuing, so he would get it and he would brush everything off. A little bit of lemon juice, about half as much lemon as there is oil. And then our seasonings, so either plain salt or seasoning salt. And we're going to use seasoning here. Now this stuff is really good because it drips off your meat and it makes your barbecue smoke, which gives it that smoky charcoal flavor, even if you're not really using charcoal, like if you're doing a propane barbecue or something of that sort. But it's still a really good thing to add to your barbecue stuff. A little bit of garlic and a little bit of oregano. And then we just whisk it and it will emulsify a little bit. Oops, made a mess. And that's what we brush our barbecued items with. Now, vegetables, meats, fish, pretty much everything. So it's an all-purpose mix, an all-purpose seasoning for the barbecue. Alright, so you'll see me use it later when we cook our souvlaki. Alright, we are outside at the barbecue. Hopefully it's not too loud out here so you can hear me. So the first thing I'm going to do, the barbecue is nice and hot. I've cleaned it. I'm going to dip paper towel, or you can use half a lemon if you have a squeezed lemon that you used for the basting sauce, in on like a 2-pronged fork or something. And we're just going to brush it onto our grill, which keeps it from being sticky and cleans it again of any gunk and stuff like that. Be careful, because sometimes, depending on how much oil you've used, it may drip and it will flare up. But I think we're pretty good here. Alright, and then we discard that, of course. And so now our grill is nice and hot, cleaned. We're going to put our souvlaki on. If I'm doing a bunch, I would line them up all nice and square to the grill. but since I'm only doing two, because it's only the two of us, and saving the rest for a dinner party in 2 days, I'm just going to cook these two. Be right back. Alright, so we've had the souvlaki on the barbecue for a few minutes, probably about 3 or 4. That's nice. Got some nice marks on our barbecue, on our souvlaki there. So now we're going to add the basting. And you just want a nice good coating. Be careful of flare-ups, but they usually die down pretty quick. And then we're going to cook the other side about the same time. And then you're going to check the middle to see if it's done enough. We don't mind pork slightly underdone, but alright. So let's check the other side here. That looks pretty good to me. I'm going to add a little bit more of the basting sauce. Get that smokiness going. Flip it over one more time so it's not raw. Not that it's bad, but you want a little bit of flavor. Smoke it up. Alright, I'm going to turn our barbecue off and I will see you inside. Alright, there's a Greek meal for you. The only thing that's missing is some nice pita or garlic bread and a Greek salad, but I didn't make those tonight. So we have our roast potatoes, we have our Greek pilaffi or Greek rice or whatever you want to call it, our tzatziki sauce, and our souvlaki. And I just want to make sure that the souvlaki is cooked in the middle, which it is. Lightly pink, which is the way we like it. We don't like it overly done. Awesome. A nice tang from the lemon. Juicy and seasoned. So I hope you try it. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe and let your friends know. Have a good one. Thank you. Bye.